Hey, welcome to the channel. This is going to be the first ever catch and cook for the Not Your Average Guys channel. I hope that you guys enjoy it. I'll tell you what the setup is. We're on a stream in Wyoming, and the plan is I'm going to hike about 3 miles downstream and I fish back upstream. And I'm going to be using 2 different spinning rods, and I'll show you the gear here shortly. I have a very, very simple, very cost-effective setup for this style of fishing. Plan is to try to catch 3 fish and take them back to the cabin, cook them and eat them for supper this evening. Show you my first little rig. It is a little Mepps rooster tail spinner. It's kind of made in a brown trout pattern. A little glow-in-the-dark tab on it that's kind of cool. These have been kind of my classic go-to for fishing these streams. A lot of what we catch in here is brown trout, just a few rainbows, and I believe we're about 9,000 feet above sea level. I am going to be using a Shakespeare. So this is a Shakespeare microlight fishing rod. I think it's about a $20 rod, and I have had St. Croix's really nice little fishing rods in this micro series. 4 to 8 pound test. It's a 5'6". The next rod that I'm going to be using is also a Shakespeare at about $20 if you can find them. It's a micro series as well, and it is a 7-foot rod made for 4 to 10 pound test. A 7-footer is real nice for getting in a stream, because if you need to get over into a hole, and all you can do is just drop a lure into the hole and float it by if you're doing a fly or something like that. That rod and length is really nice for that. These are both Pflueger President series, and I believe they are different eras. The other one's a little bit older, but they're both the President 20 series. So they're for 4 to 8 pound tests, and I think I'm running 4 pound on both of them. A really simple bag with a couple of extra lures in it. I do throw a bobber in to use as a float once in a while. And then I like to take a Ziploc, because if I'm going to keep a fish, I'll put it in a Ziploc instead of just putting it directly in the bag with all of my stuff. And that's it. I have a backpack that has water and a little bit of medical supply and a couple of protein bars, but PSA dagger, and it's nice that it has a light on it in case I need an extra light if I end up hiking back in the dark. And then I also carry another flashlight with me. I'm usually covering a lot of ground in a short amount of time. I might fish the 3 miles of stream in just a couple of hours. I'm gonna be setting up the camera and try to fish a hole, and I might get kind of tired of resetting up the camera. I hope that I just find some really good spots and I catch a couple fish for the video. I might cast, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 times, and I might move 100 times and fish in 100 different spots. So this is kind of the mountain stream that I'm fishing, but we're gonna hike downstream quite a ways before we even start fishing, and then we'll make our way back up here. This is just like an old 4-wheeler trail, and there's a number of people that drive this trail, and several of them, it's kind of a cool deal. Several of them have gold mining claims on this. And so while it would be really neat to bring the kids out here and pan for gold, I guess if they caught you, it's actually a crime. And I don't know all the rules around it, but there's claim signs up all over this place. And actually at one point in the history of this area, there was actually quite a gold rush here, because they had found quite a bit of gold. And I don't think there's any major gold mining operations out here now, but I think that those guys that do that gold mining do have some success, or they wouldn't be out here year after year, I would imagine. You're in a little spoon. Here's a spoon. The little spoon that's on there will actually catch on your string or something like that, and then it'll spin and spin and spin, and it'll twist your string as you reel in. And then it'll actually cause you problems on future casts where the string is kind of spooling up on you. But the disconnect swivels will kind of prevent that to a large degree. But like I said, they're just an added clutter to your lure, and I've always felt like I had better luck without them. A couple years back, this whole side of this mountain was all burned off. I mean, everywhere that I can see, everything is just burned off, and it just looks really desolate right now, and it's kind of sad to see. But there was a lot of beetle kill out here a few years, well, for like the last 10 or 15 years, and that was making it look ugly too. So it's kind of, this mountain is kind of getting a fresh start, and I'm super excited that a new growth season is going to start for it. Unfortunately, it makes you realize how little game there is out here when you look out across these mountains, and like, you don't see any deer, you don't see any elk. I mean, kind of glad to not see the bears. I mean, they're out there somewhere, but when the trees are all covering with all of their needles on them, you kind of always just assume that they're just around the corner, you know, just back into the woods a little bit out of sight. But when you can see this whole mountainside, you realize, they're not in this area today. But there definitely are a lot of moose down in these bottoms. You can see all this sagebrush or all this willow kind of brush around here, and it's quite exhilarating, honestly, to walk around the corner and you're just minding your own business, fishing, and there's a moose just standing there like, this is my space, and it's pretty much their space. And so you just vacate, or you go climb up something really steep and try to get behind a tree if they're chasing you. And I've only ever one time ended up between a moose and her calf, and honestly, that was not my favorite moment ever. So also, the technique that I'm using here with this light line, light pole, inline spinner, what it is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get downstream of a hole where I think there might be a fish or a rock that I think a trout might be hanging out around. And I'm gonna cast basically upstream and across. And what'll end up happening is either a lot of times they'll hit right on, like just as soon as they pass that rock, or you might even see them, if you have polarized sunglasses, you might see them following it, and then they won't hit it until the last second as it starts to kind of hook. You've brought it all the way downstream, almost parallel with you, and then it's starting to hook back towards you, and you're basically thinking, I'm gonna reel this thing in and cast again, and bam, you get a hit. It's a very straightforward technique. It's very simple. It's not obviously as beginner level as like fishing with a worm and bobber, but it's not complicated at all. And I've had a lot of luck with it over the years, and when I've showed people how to do it, I feel like several other people that I've fished with have had a lot of luck. These streams are fun to fish with a fly rod, but they are very constricted with all of this brush. I mean, there's brush as tall as me, almost right up to the stream on all sides of this area. And so I have found that fishing with a fly rod is just more frustrating than it is fun at this particular stream. And so, though I really do love fly fishing, I've just decided that I'll stick with a couple of spinning rods. Probably have quite a bit better luck doing that, and therefore it ends up being a little bit more fun. So this is a mineral claim. We can fish the area, we can be out here, it's public land, but you can't pan for gold, you can't mine anything on their claim. They've shown some evidence, I believe, that there are minerals to be mined, and then they file it with the state and pay a fee every year. So be cautious of panning for gold. I know everybody that goes fishing is like, oh, I'll just take a pan and I'll pan for gold. You do have certain people that have rights to do so and certain people that don't. So be careful of that and respect other people's rights. One of my problems is I'm always looking down and going, if I just go a few hundred more yards, if I just go around that next bend, I'll I'll get to a really good hole and I'll just drop in on the perfect spot. And I end up committing to more hiking than I probably needed to. But the advantage of this particular setup with this stream is that once I figure out where I want to start fishing, I'm going back toward the vehicles the whole rest of the time. And so I don't ever have to like plan this really far ahead. I need to stop fishing so that I can get up and hike back 4 miles. I've already established how far I've gone in, and I fish back toward the vehicles. On backpacking trips, I prefer to hike uphill. I prefer to hike upstream if I'm doing a backpacking fishing trip for that exact reason. I'd prefer to not be backtracking over and over as I fish, because I always get tempted to kind of fish upstream toward that next hole. So I'm probably only going to hike for another maybe quarter or half mile at most once I get into this canyon. And then I'm going to start fishing my way out. See if we can't get something on camera, get something in the bag. Found the spot that I want to focus on. So if you look downstream, there's about 300 or 400 boulders. And behind every one of those boulders is a little slow spot of water. And I think that I can find a spot down there and then I can fish my way up here. I don't know if I'll have the stamina to keep setting up the camera over and over and over to try to catch a video of catching a fish. Because this is the first fishing trip. This will be the first time I put a line in the water this year, and I really would like to catch something. There's a lot of boulders up there. It doesn't look like much of a stream, but there can be some really good sized brown trout. There's a lot of little brookies in here. And I was trying to think how to describe my fishing style on a creek like this. And the style I came up with, see if I can even say it, boulder fields and bends is my bread and butter. I'm looking for a rock that a fish might be kind of hanging out under, or I'm looking for a deep cut under a bend in the stream. And I don't really mess with open water very much, especially in the middle of the day. So here's the lure. It's imitating a little brown trout, and that spoon is going to spin around on that. And like I said before, I added that little swivel so that I can switch this guy out as often as I need to. There, wasn't very big, but it was a fish. Well, I got a little follow right there. But I'm getting a few little follows from some smaller brook trout. And I might actually drop in over this boulder right here. Oh, that was a goof up. It's worth a shot because I've got a pretty good rock. I don't know if you're even going to be able to see it on camera, but I've got a pretty good little rock just on the other side. The nice thing about this videoing thing is I can always edit out my stupidity whenever I prove that I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody will even know it because it won't even be on camera. They'll only know the good stuff when I land a state record. That's when I'll shine. Oh, I had a little hit on that. I didn't know that that would even happen. Man, tell you what, there's a lot of boulder field downstream there that I could be taking advantage of. But that's kind of the way it always is. You always feel like you could go a little farther, hike a little harder, get to a little better spot. So I don't know about this pole. It just doesn't have the same feel as the other rod. Ooh, there was a little bite. So I went ahead and I put that other rod away. Started to realize that I really like the feel, and I started to remember why it is that I like the feel of that other rod. Let's see if I can get this in there. This is just like a Mepps rooster's tail spinner. Get it to hold still there for a second. And has a little bit of a rainbow trout look to it. And I like the feel of this rod better. Even for a small stream, even though it's a pretty large rod, I still feel like there's some major advantages to this 7-foot rod. And if I could get my lure to walk through the water like it's supposed to, I haven't used this particular spinner on a stream like this. There's a lot of little things about the feel that are kind of hard to explain, but when you feel them, you feel them. That's the weird thing. I don't know how I feel about these little leaders. That's one problem I'm having. I feel like they're just not my favorite thing. The lure doesn't seem to work the same. It doesn't have the same weight to it. Maybe for some people they're really good, or maybe they're just a product that gets sold and sit in people's tackle boxes. My next one is going to be this hard body minnow. It's an inline spinner just like the other one. And honestly, if I'm not feeling it, if I can't get the feel for that thing coming through the water, I'm going to remove that and see if it feels any better, because I have a very specific way that I would like for it to feel when I'm reeling it in. I'll tell you what, guys, I did hook into that brookie on that little hard inline spinner, but this is hard enough to video and everything, and I'm not trying to complain about it. I get to be out here in the mountains, I get to cast a line in the water and catch some fish. It's the best thing in the world, but the videoing part is something I'm not used to, and trying to set up the camera and everything, and it's getting into my groove. So if you stuck around till this long into this video, I feel like you deserve to see me catch an actual fish. And you can make fun of how I tie flies if you want, or how I tie my string on if you want. It's just how I do it. I'm not a professional fisherman or anything, but my son has a good time teasing me about it, because he's a very studious kind of a guy. He learns how to do things the right way, and then he does them. He's a pretty sharp kid. I kind of just fumble my way through stuff. But anyway, so I've got another hole here, and I went back to kind of what I would call my bread and butter in these streams. It's this little inline spinner. I'm gonna go over and try to catch an actual fish and bring it in. And if I catch one fish, this thing's gonna be over, and then the next video will be of cleaning it and then actually cooking it. But I'll tell you what, right now, if I had to do this for my livelihood, I'd be starving. Okay, so I actually had a bite there. A little bit of a tag. So I think there's some fish in this hole. And I just need to figure out how to get on them in a way and present it to them in a way that they're happy with. There's one chasing. Nice thing is, if you haven't fished, if you're a beginner, I'm kind of a beginner at this. I'll tell you what, a set of polarized sunglasses does wonders for being able to see what's happening in the water with the lure. I'll tell you that. I see some good spots up ahead. Okay, I've got a little brown on. See if he stays on. That's a brown. I'd rather bring him down and not have him out of the water too long if I'm gonna let him go. No, I don't know if I'm gonna let him go or not at this point. Probably not. All right, that's a little brown trout. I can catch 3 of these in this stream. That's definitely small for a brown, but finally caught one fish. And if that's how it's gonna be, that's how it's gonna be. I'm gonna set up a few more times, but I think I'm actually gonna keep this fish because this is a brown, but he's even smaller than the last one. So I think I'm gonna let him go, not even pull him out of the water. Okay, there's a good fish on. There we go. Okay, it's a good brown trout. I think he's gonna be supper. Oh, it's a rainbow. No, this is, oh, I gotta keep this guy. This is a big brook trout. Oh man, this is awesome. This is awesome. This guy is supper. Man, I'll tell you what, that is supper. And that just fell out of his mouth. Oh man. Oh, that is a very nice brook trout. Let me see if I can get him where I don't lose him. Wow. Very nice brook trout. Very nice. That guy's supper right there. Oh, sweet. Oh man, I'm so stoked about that fish. I haven't caught a brook trout quite that size in this stream before. Okay, so that's a brown. I'm gonna get that little brown back in the river just quick as I can. That's a little brown. Oh, he's gone. Okay, this hole has some fish in it. So, oh man. Oh, definitely caught on a branch there. Ha! That's over. We're gonna have supper tonight for sure. So, I kind of lost that last hole on account of catching that on a branch. But I've moved on just a little ways upstream, and I'm gonna, oh, actually, no, I'm just gonna catch one while I'm standing here talking to you. This is another brown, but he's small too. And so I'm gonna let him go. Oh boy. So the fish, I've been at it for about 2 hours, I think. The fish are just now starting to bite. And I wish I could show you this better if I had a net, but show it to you. There you go. I need to be farther away from the camera apparently. And the reality is, if you have your line in the water when the fish are biting, that's the only way you're catching fish. Ah, there went one. But then there's also times when the fish aren't biting and you're fishing in the wrong spot and there aren't any fish in that area to bite. So when you're fishing, you don't want to get too worked up. You don't want to get too bummed. You don't want to get too excited and think you're the best fisherman. Because, like for instance, I'm not going to catch any bass today. So does that mean I'm a terrible bass fisherman? I think we're moving on, boys. Oh, hey, you know what I just saw? I'm going to show you before I keep moving. Well, earlier I was talking about the fact that there's people with mining claims, right? And people with mining claims, sometimes they just leave all their equipment out here and they kind of put some branches over it and they hide it. Now we don't jack with it, we don't mess with it. But this is somebody's mining rig that they've set up, and there's some dredges and there's a motor to run a pump, and you know, it's kind of another fun thing you can do in the mountains. They probably make more money at it than I do fishing. There. That is a little brown. Not too big. Respectable little fish to catch though. And we're gonna just try to let him go. It's a good sized brown right there. I think I might keep him. Not real heavy on browns. This will be my second one that I keep. I don't know where the camera is, but it's a good eating fish. Now I would say brook trout tastes better, but it'll cook. So there's some still water up here, and I'll show it to you. Okay, fish on. Seems like a decent fish. That's what I was hoping for right there. It's a good fish. I don't know how to run the camera and fish at the same time. This guy seems like a good fish. I could just... Oh yeah, he's good. I'm gonna keep him if I get him in. Decent sized brown, I think, I would say. This guy's not enormous, but this is a... Oh, get that over here at an angle there. Whoa! 3 browns. Good brown trout. It's probably 12 or 14 inches long. And I'm gonna clean these guys and I'm gonna start trekking back. We're gonna cook them up tonight. This is the good day. 3 brown trout, 1 brook trout. Usually a brook trout's gonna be like in the size of these guys, but this is a very nice brook trout for stream fishing here in Wyoming, at least in this area. I forget what this knife is. I may update it, but it turns out that tip being straight is a very nice edge for gutting a fish. This is that brook trout. Hopefully I'm in camera frame. I don't know. But if you have a nice sharp knife, trout filleting or trout gutting at least is pretty simple. Filleting them is a whole different ball game. Get in here behind that gill and pop that, and then grab a hold of it. If it's on the larger fish, you might have to cut that right there. Just tear that, toss it aside. So I'm probably a mile from the base camp yet, where I'm going to get picked up. I'm going to start hiking back and not fishing the rest of the way. Although I could probably fish for another 2 hours, I would be releasing any brown that I caught, and it's all right. They're going to be waiting for me anyway. They'll be happy that I get back a little bit early. And I don't even know if I'm early. It feels early, but it may not be early. And what we're planning on eating tonight is fish tacos. So salt, a little bit of pepper. Usually I do lemon pepper, but I'm trying a new seasoning that is a lemon, butter, garlic. This little hatchet is a Gerber, kind of a camp hatchet. And then one nice thing about it, I know I didn't use this on the gutting, but really you go out in the woods and you have this item with this nesting knife, and you pretty much have a fishing setup for cooking something. I could cook these over the wood stove inside the cabin, but Wanted to try this technique tonight. Nope, not being careful. Nicked my finger. So my thought is that while we're waiting for the fire to get going, I'm going to go ahead and salt, pepper, and lemon pepper the fish. That was a nice fish. I really was really happy with that guy. And this fish also. Very nice fish. Brookie. But that's just a really nice brook trout right there. So now the smoke's coming back in my eyes. It's a bummer. I'm probably going to wrap all of these separately. So set that guy aside. Should probably move my operation some. Set that aside. Now, an interesting thing about the brook trout compared to the browns is that brook trout have almost imperceivable fins. Like you can't tell that they even have fins. Or not fins, scales, I'm sorry. They have almost no scales. And so you can eat the skin. You don't get any weirdness about the texture of a brook trout. Now, brown trout aren't quite that way. I usually don't end up eating the skin. Getting a little bit too much smoke in my eyes as I'm trying to do this. So, there's that. Now our fire really doesn't look like much of a fire. However, we're gonna go ahead and put them on because I think we're running late. So our fire's going underneath of there, and I can hear them frying up. I'm gonna probably go and try and find a little grate or something that I can move them to so that I can kind of control the heat that's getting to them a little better. It'd be best if you had coals instead of flames, because coals aren't going to create the hot spots that flames are. Flames against this aluminum foil are going to create one really hot spot and a really cool spot. But a bed of coals that you can lay these things down in is definitely a more ideal setup. So I didn't actually find a grate, but I found this log, and you probably can't see me doing this, but I'm cutting it. I'm going to actually just use it as two pieces to set the fish on. And while it burns, obviously it'll burn up. I think it'll get a little bit of height for my cooking surface. Ooh. Sound good. I do want them cooking. May not want them quite that close to the fire. Truth be told, these might turn out quite terribly. I really don't know. But we also have hamburgers, so all is not lost if they don't turn out very well. I'm gonna open one up and check and just see how this looks. I don't think it's quite done.
Can you turn it somehow?
I can turn it over. Ooh, that one not dead. Oh, those were small.
I think it's raining.
Okay. thoroughly cooked in the bag. They Okay, so packaging definitely burned, but the actual fish just looks like a charred mess, but when you use a fork to kind of peel the meat off, all the meat, no bones, comes out. Skin's coming off perfectly. So in that one, all the bones are gonna come. Oh yeah. The only part of that is burned is the skin. So just got that entire half of a fish off of there. There's that little cheekbone. I mean, meat. Fish tacos, salsa, sour cream. Oh man, I forgot the black beans. Were there black beans? Alright. First try. And then we'll see what everybody else thinks. Perfect. How are your fish tacos?
So fishy.
I like beefy fishy.
Yeah, and then ground beef in my taco.
Mom. Hey. Did you try the fish? How long did you guys wait for them? The moral of the story is that I didn't need to hike 2.5 miles to catch fish. When I looked at a map, I probably caught all those fish within less than a half mile of each other, and then I had to hike back 1.5 miles. Hey, thanks for watching my first catch and cook video. At least the first one of this trip, hopefully the first of many. I'm just learning how to edit video, and I just started this YouTube channel, so I appreciate it if you'd subscribe. If you watched it this long, maybe there's a chance. I'm saying there's a chance. So, thanks for watching.